West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Donald Trump is frantically posting things like this. Dems dust off the Russia playbook. It's always projection and confession with Donald Trump. He's posting video from Fox Propaganda where they say, oh, here we go again, Russia, 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 right? This follows the Department of Justice unsealing an indictment against Russian nationals who used a right-wing media company as a front in the United States. It was called Tenet Media, to spread pro-Russian propaganda as well as to divide Americans and divide communities, ultimately with the goal of trying to get Donald Trump elected. A very detailed indictment, and one of the things that many people suspect is why the founders of Tenet Media, who are named in this indictment as basically knowing they were dealing with Moscow, why they weren't indicted, that they were possibly charged already, and that they are now cooperating. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, and Donald Trump knows that. Don't let them gaslight you, folks. You know the easiest way that you can show people when Donald Trump goes, oh, it's Russia, Russia, Russia. I mean, look, when Donald Trump was running in 2016 and he gave a press conference where he quite literally said, Russia, if you are listening, I want you to hack the emails of my political opponent. Here, just listen to what he said in his own words. Here, play this clip.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens. That'll be next. Yes.
Now, you remember over this past weekend, one of the clips that I provided where Donald Trump gave that bizarre interview with Mark Levin, who talks like that. And remember what Donald Trump kind of just bizarrely brought up on his own? He talked about how he really wanted to make deals with Putin, but because people were accusing him of making deals with Putin, he couldn't get those deals done. Remember that? Here, play this clip.
Than me, but we were having a problem. You had Adam Shifty Schiff and all these bad people, including Hillary and others, coming up with this Russia hoax. And I told Putin, I said, you know, it's a shame because we could have done a lot of business, the countries together, but with this whole fake thing that's going on, and he understood that. I said, it's a fake deal. He actually said to me, he said, it's tough to make a deal now. I said, you're right, it's tough. They created a fake narrative, this Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. It was a hoax. And we could have had a much different relationship with Russia.
And is it worth reminding you as well that the first individuals from a foreign country who Donald Trump invited to the White House were the top foreign leaders from Putin's Russia? He had Sergei Kislyak and Lavrov in the Oval Office, who he met with outside of the presence of any American media or any of his own advisors. And then he gave them classified information. You know how we know he gave them classified information? He tweeted about it. He said he gave them classified information, and he said then that he had an absolute right to do it. I want you to think about that. He was using the language of absolute immunity, the language of a dictator, with his first act of the presidency, bringing the Russians into the Oval. Into we the people, our Oval, giving them classified information, tweeting that he gave them classified information and said he had the right to do it. Then remember when he went to Helsinki? Shall I show you that? Let me show you where Donald Trump said that he trusts Vladimir Putin over American intelligence. Here, play this clip.
First question for you, sir, is who do you believe? My second question is, would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
So let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? I've been wondering that. I've been asking that for months and months, and I've been tweeting it out and calling it out on social media. Where is the server? I want to know, where is the server, and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server. But I have confidence in both parties. I really believe that this will probably go on for a while, but I don't think it can go on without finding out what happened to the server. What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary Clinton's emails? 33,000 emails, gone, just gone. I think in Russia they wouldn't be gone so easily. I think it's a disgrace that we can't get Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer. Okay, thank you.
Remember when Donald Trump gave a speech recently in Doral, Florida? And he said he didn't know what NATO even was when he took office. He claims he didn't know what NATO is. Play this clip.
I didn't even know what the hell NATO was too much before, but it didn't take me long to figure it out, like about 2 minutes. And the first thing I figured out was they weren't paying. We were paying almost fully for NATO.
Well, what's interesting is that right now, Donald Trump's making selfie videos of himself saying that NATO is a threat and that America needs to get out of NATO, and that if he were to be elected, he would consider disbanding or rethinking NATO. Play this clip.
At home, the State Department, the defense bureaucracy, the intelligence services, and all of the rest need to be completely overhauled and reconstituted to fire the deep staters and put America first. We have to put America first. Finally, we have to finish the process we began under my administration of fundamentally reevaluating NATO's purpose and NATO's mission. Our foreign policy establishment keeps trying to pull the world into conflict with a nuclear-armed Russia based on the lie that Russia represents our greatest threat. But the greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia. It's probably, more than anything else, ourselves and some of the horrible USA-hating people that represent us.
I mean, how is this even possible? How did the Republican Party go from tear down the wall, Mr. Gorbachev, to America needs to pull out of NATO, to Vladimir Putin is this brilliant negotiator? Like here's another selfie video that Donald Trump made of himself where he says, Putin was a great negotiator by putting troops on the border of Ukraine. Play this clip.
Never happened. Russia was not going to attack Ukraine. As soon as I got out, they started to form along the lines. And I thought that Putin maybe, look, he's a good negotiator. I thought he was going to be doing that for negotiation purposes. Then all of a sudden they attacked. And I said, what's going on here?
I remember when Donald Trump said that he had like secret deals with Putin that only Putin would release Evan Gershkovich, even though Gershkovich was released through a prison swap negotiated by President Biden. Here, play this clip.
Evan Gershkovich, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal who is being held by Russia, will be released almost immediately after the election, but definitely before I assume office. He will be home, he will be safe. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, will do that for me, and I don't believe he'll do it for anyone else, and we will be paying nothing. Biden likes to pay massive numbers. We will be paying nothing. Thank you very much.
So while all of that's going on, Donald Trump is then stealing the symbols of America, like our American flag, and putting his name on it. Look at the emails that he's sending. The American flag with Trump's name on our flag? Seriously? Or Donald Trump saying this is the most patriotic flag yet? A red MAGA flag? Is saying that's the most patriotic flag, not the American flag? And then when he's selling American flag pins, it has his name on it? Are you kidding me? Or how about the fact that Donald Trump has changed the lyrics to the national anthem and now sings the J6th choir song instead of the national anthem? I mean, again, how is this even real? Or how about this? Donald Trump just constantly talking negatively about our country over and over again. You realize what he's trying to do? He's trying to cause harm. He posts this photo of the American flag with his face on it and repeatedly posts over and over and over again that America's a failing nation. It's failing, it's failing, it's failing. He says that over and over again, right? That's why he wanted to block and did block a bipartisan border deal, because he wants there to be chaos. He made a selfie video of himself moments ago where he's saying there's going to be an economic crash because he's trying to create panic while his stock, Trump Media, is down 74% since March. Here's the video he just made of himself.
Kamala, crash. We're going to have a crash like 1929 if she gets in. It will not be pretty. Thank you.
This is what he's doing, folks. And then he gives this bizarre interview with Hannity where he talks about how Viktor Orban's a strong man and people need a strong man. Play this clip.
It's a question they asked Viktor Orban, who's really considered a very strong. They said he's a strong man. Sometimes you need a strong man. He's a strong man. He's the prime minister of Hungary.
And then he speaks like a dictator because he's a wannabe dictator, right? He goes, you have to vote for me. You have no choice. Here, play this clip.
I'm not going to allow it. You can't take the chance. You have no choice. You've got to vote for me. You've got to vote for me. Even if you don't like me, you know? Yeah. It's no, but even if you don't like me, you can sit there and say, I can't stand that guy, but there's no way I'm going to vote for her. No,
Now compare that to Governor Walz. Here's what Governor Walz said when he spoke in Pennsylvania yesterday. Play the clip.
This is going to be door-to-door, phone call to phone call. It's going to be engaging people who it is a deliberate effort by some people to make them believe that our political system is broken, to make them believe that things are pessimistic. My God, every time I hear Donald Trump give a speech, it's like the next screenplay for Mad Max or something. They're rooting against America. They do not believe in the exceptionalism of this country. They do not believe in the people who built this country. They simply want to complain about them. And by you coming here and talking neighbor to neighbor, that's what inspires people. My wife always talks about this. She said, I don't read the paper to see the movie reviews. I ask people that I know what they think about it. And they go, that's the same thing that's going on here. And I think all of you in this room, it's not hyperbole to say This election could very well hinge on this county here and this field office here and the folks that we get out. That is an awesome responsibility, but it's also an awesome opportunity.
And folks, if I can debunk one other thing, and I think it's important, I just showed you that video of Governor Walz. You may have seen this photo circulating where it says that these are like the Walz family supports Donald Trump. Do you remember seeing this photo right here? Well, it turns out that the Walz family for Trump photo that's gone viral, and you may have seen it, and was reposted by Trump, is only related to Tim Walz through his grandfather's brother. That's who this is. It's not even like his direct family or brother. There are right now going on so many right-wing ops that are taking place. And it is so important that we continue to get out accurate and truthful information. I have to look you in the eye right now and say, like, you are so important to getting out the truth. There are so much money rather, being spent with these billionaires who are trying to take away our democracy from us. And they're gaslighting us. You know how Governor Walz sometimes says in his speech, he's like, who's even asking for these ideas? Who goes, I want less health care. I want to work while I'm sick. I want the government to invade my personal space. He goes, who's asking for these ideas? It's the right question. It's the right question. There are people who want to take away your freedom for different reasons. There's foreign adversaries who want to weak America and realize that that's what Trump provides. There are billionaires who want to pickpocket and take away your money, your hard-earned money, and they want to divide us, and that's their way to do it. This is going to escalate from now until November.
It is Thursday, the 5th of September of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. And we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. Well, sad news, folks. We took our little precious in for her weekly IV drip, along with Gunner, who was getting his iFold surgery for his eyes. But I got a call much earlier than I expected. But they said that Precious was not well, and she had been going into seizures. So they hadn't even started the IV drip on her. So they said I should get there quick, and so I did. And she was fairly out of it. I like to think that when I was telling or saying her name and holding her close, that in those moments she calmed down. And I like to think that she kind of maybe sensed or knew I was there. I like to think that. Who knows? But, well, we had to let her go. And I cried. I was very sad, even though we've been expecting this. And it's glorious to live this accident of life. It was still, I cried. So, anyway, thanks for, all of you out there who have allowed me to give this little diary of our little Yorkshire Terrier. She was such a cutie. But I guess I'll give you an update on Gunner. Boy, it's going to be hard because we've been having her as our door girl for a while. So I don't know if we're going to get another door girl. We'll just have to let Gunner, our snoozing sous chef, take over some more duties, possibly. Or maybe we'll just let him snooze and do his regular job. Anyway, his iFold surgery was a success. Much more involved than what I thought. I thought maybe it was just one eye, but it was actually a fold that went across. Well, let me back up a little bit. Bulldogs and dogs of that ilk have folds, lots of them, and you have to keep them clean and whatnot. But he had some folds that were so deep. The scalpel that they were using, he was using it as a measuring device for the picture that he showed me, and it was hella deep. He said he'd never really experienced folds that deep before. Pardon me. Still literally choked up about little Precious. Anyway, not only are the folds deep, but he has more than usual. Or shall I put it this way? He has folds that are not usual. So, more of them. And the one that was actually going across right below his eyes was the one that was pushing up. I thought maybe it was just sort of like the little eye lid just below the eye. No, it was a whole fold that he had to take out. So some cosmetic surgery. And it's a success. He will now be wearing one of those hella big-ass cones around his head for 2 weeks. And I'm supposed to get him to take pill medicine. He has never done that. And I'm not supposed to crush it up in his food. I'm supposed to, put it like in, peanut butter or something like that. He won't do it. So I got to figure it out. Plus, the cone is so hella big, I've tried, Dr. Dickey said, he'll figure it out, meaning I'll figure it out. Short of like cutting the cone so he can have a little bit more access to his food, because he's got a big old neck and it's not very long. Okay. So they can get the cone around there, but how I put his food and water dish up on a little platform and seeing if that will work. But short of that, what we've been doing is actually what I have been doing is I've been sitting there and holding his dish up in the cone so he can have access to his food and water, and he hasn't even eaten yet. So how am I supposed to get the pills he's supposed to take twice a day in pill form, big old horse pills, and I'm not supposed to crush them up. I'm supposed to somehow get him to take them, and he hasn't even eaten since last night because I can't get him to eat because he's got this big old ass cone around his head, and he's like feels like there's something wrong and he's not going to eat. Okay, well, now I have another concern to be concerned with. Can you tell? Anyway, well, that's the news on the old home front there, and thank you once again for trekking along with us on it. It'll be a little bit different opening the show without Precious. She was always there, at least for a while we had her, because we had Ginger before that, and that was years of Ginger. Not so many years actually with our little Precious, but she did supplant our Ginger quite admirably, and we all came to love her, didn't we? Yes, we did. Alrighty, what do we have in store for you here in the bistro cafe of this salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Of course, Trump's going to go out there and say, it's Russia, 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 and we're going to say, yeah, just like we said, mofo. I mean, anybody who's been laundering money for Russian mobsters then claims, oh, I don't know anything about Russia, except I'm in love with Putin. I tell him everything. I give him everything he wants. It's my right. Yeah, that's crazy. This guy was pulling out the immunity thing right from the get-go. I can bring in the Russians, Kislyak and Lavrov, right into the Oval Office, give them some intel about Israel, by the way. Let's be clear about that. And now look what's happening. Mm-hmm. People can get bought off. And when you're corrupt as Bibi, who knows? I mean, who knows? Anyway, It's not going to work this time, Donnie, because you guys are weird. Yep, useful idiots and dupes. Russian dupes. Just like we said all along. On the rest of the menu, oh my God, live fire is suspected of starting a wildfire that severely damaged a naval base on a remote California island. Yeah, San Clemente Island. You heard of it? We surfers have. Republicans have filed over 100 voting-related lawsuits as a way to contest the presidential election because the thing they hate more than America are Americans, and that's you and me. They hate us. Anyway, we're joyful about it. Actually, we are. And an appeals court has upheld an earlier finding that the online Internet Archive violated copyright law. Do not shut down the Library of Alexandria. That's what the Internet Archive is. Commerce versus a library. God, I hate that. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Macron named the EU's Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier. Where's that? Michel Barnier. I like Michel Barnier. As France's new prime minister. And leaders of South Korea and New Zealand strongly condemn the deepening military cooperation between North Korea and who? Russia. Russia. All that and more Russia in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Just a quick reminder before we jump into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is do follow me on social media at Justice Putnam for quick access to the show notes and links diaries on Daily Codes because the links are there on my social media. And that way you'll have full access to the actual reportage by the actual reporters, and also do help us out by becoming a recurring Patreon, and you can do that easily by going to our homepage at netrootsradio.com, scrolling down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see where you can link up to the Patreon site and become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, because yes, indeed, we do need a little help in paying the bills so we can keep this powerhouse of resistance resisting. And thank you very much for your generosity over all these many years for those of you who have. This first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is from the LA Times by Tony Briscoe. About 75 miles northwest of San Diego, beyond the view of much of the mainland, the rugged and remote outpost of San Clemente Island remains a mystery to most Californians. For 9 decades, San Clemente Island, the southernmost of the 8 Channel Islands, has been owned by the Navy and is largely inaccessible to civilians. Throughout this time, the volcanic isle's sprawling shoreline and rolling hills have served as a crucial military training ground where U.S. troops detonate grenades and fire heavy artillery. It's also the Navy's last live firing range for ship-to-shore bombardments. So, in late July, few noticed when a catastrophic wildfire swept over more than 13,000 acres of the island outpost. Between July 24th and July 30th, the blaze scorched more than a third of the island, damaging more than 9 miles of high-voltage power lines, including more than 160 utility lines and a transformer, according to Navy documents. And the fire also swept through parts of the island that have rare habitats for sensitive plant and animal species found nowhere else, so let's blow it up, such as the endangered San Clemente loggerhead shrike, a carnivorous songbird. Oh, how pretty. And then they eat you. The conflagration left the southern end of the island charred and numerous Navy buildings without power. It is expected to take at least a year to restore electricity to those facilities. In the meantime, the Navy will rely on diesel-powered backup generators to maintain communications for its operations, as well as for the Federal Aviation Administration air traffic control functions and Coast Guard search and rescue missions. Nicholas Riccardi at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays. Before voters even begin casting ballots, Democrats and Republicans are engaged in a sprawling legal fight over how the 2024 election will be run, a series of court disputes that could even run past Election Day if the outcome is close. I wonder what they mean by close, because we keep beating them by millions and millions, if not close to 10 million. And because they're able to manipulate a couple of counties spread over a couple of states, that makes it close. We'll see. Both parties have bulked up their legal teams for the fight. Republicans have filed more than 100 lawsuits challenging various aspects of vote casting after being chastised repeatedly by judges in 2020 for bringing complaints about how the election was run only after votes were tallied. So now they're going to complain about it before. After Trump had made election integrity a key part of his party's platform following his false claims of widespread voter fraud in 2020, the Republican National Committee, Laura Trump, says it has more than 165,000 volunteers ready to intimidate people at the polls. Oh, I'm sorry, watch people at the polls in November. Well, heavily armed, mind you. That's how they do it. Democratic lawyers are countering with what they are calling voter protection. Is that what we call it? Or is that what you... Rushing to court to fight back against the GOP cases and building their own team with over 100 staffers, several hundred lawyers, and what they say are thousands of volunteers for November. Well, we're one of them. You and me. That makes many. Despite the flurry of litigation, the cases have tended to be fairly small bore, with few likely impacts for most voters. Well, that's not what Democracy Docket has been doing. We have been beating back this, well, there's no other way to put it, coup against democracy since 2020. We're battle ready. Atali at the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. An appeals court has upheld an earlier finding that the online Internet Archive violated copyright law by scanning and sharing digital books without the publisher's permission. Four major publishers, Hachette Book Group, HarperCollins Publishers, John Wiley & Sons, and Penguin Random House, had sued the archive in 2020, alleging that it had illegally offered free copies of more than 100 books, including fiction by Toni Morrison and J.D. Salinger. The archive has countered that it was protected by fair use law. In 2023, a judge for the U.S. District Court in Manhattan decided in the publisher's favor and granted them a permanent injunction. Yesterday, Wednesday, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit concurred, asking the question, was the Internet Archive's lending program, a national emergency library launched early in the pandemic, an example of fair use? Applying the relevant provisions of the Copyright Act as well as binding Supreme Court and Second Circuit precedent, we conclude the answer is no. The appeals court ruled. Damn them. All right, that takes us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Frederick Remington was an American painter, sculptor, illustrator, and writer whose works frequently featured cowboys, Native Americans, soldiers, horses, bison, and other iconic features of the rapidly vanishing American West. During his 25-year career, Remington produced around 3,000 paintings and drawings, 22 bronze sculptures, a novel, a Broadway play, and more than 100 articles and stories. Remington was 48 years old when he died of peritonitis, a complication of an emergency appendectomy. Around 1900, Remington began working on a series of paintings, now known collectively as the Nocturnes, that depict color and light unique to night. Nancy Anderson, curator of American and British paintings at the National Gallery of Art, Washington, D.C., wrote, "In these experimental, complex, and deeply personal paintings, Remington explored the technical and aesthetic difficulties of painting darkness. Surprisingly, his images are filled with color and light, moonlight, firelight, candlelight. Many of those paintings also depict danger from humans, animals, or nature, as implied and real threats, sometimes revealed to the viewer, and sometimes suggested by the posture or action of Remington's subjects. This month's cover painting, commonly known as the Cigarette, was discovered in Remington's studio after his death. In this painting, 4 cowboys relax around a small fire outside a cabin. A plume of smoke rises toward the clear, blue-green night sky flecked with a few stars, past a large skin hanging on the side of the cabin. The cabin does not overwhelm the painting, but details such as the shadow under the roofline, the seams between logs, the softened edges of the structure, and the tautly stretched skin reveal Remington's deftness in rendering textures. His use of subdued colors, punctuated by the reflected firelight, underscores the quiet of the evening's respite following a long day's work. The cowboy in the foreground blocks the campfire so that its muted glow washes out into the middle of the painting. Despite a rifle standing within reach just to the left of the bunkhouse door, this painting does not suggest the foreboding sense of danger characteristic of many of Remington's other nocturnes. As the evening's ritual of cigarettes, coffee, and conversation plays out, the cowboy to the left squats and smokes, perhaps telling a story or swapping tales about days gone by. Thayer Tolles of the Metropolitan Museum of Art said that many of Remington's works offer a nostalgic, even mythic look at a rapidly disappearing Western frontier, which underwent dramatic transformation in the face of transcontinental transportation, Native American confinement to reservation land, immigration, and industrialization. The once remote places and outposts yielded to encroaching ranches, farms, and towns as more people pushed westward each year. The vast migration and increasing population across the vanishing frontier would also bring the potential for transmission of the pathogens that cause such diseases as tuberculosis, measles, pneumonia, and typhoid. Crossing the plains and deserts by horseback, wagon, or train may have exposed settlers to airborne fungal spores that can cause valley fever. As cabins, then towns, then cities were built, crowded conditions afforded more opportunities for exposures to pathogens from animal hosts, such as rodents and bats. Many of Remington's works portray the Old West as a vast, mythical landscape of danger, silence, and beauty. The cigarette, however, captures a quiet moment around a campfire in the evening light, serving as an elegiac farewell to that time and place. I'm Byron Breedlove for Emerging Infectious Diseases Journal, and I've been reading my essay, Quiet Moments Around the Campfire. You can read the essay online and in the print version of the June issue of Emerging Infectious Diseases at cdc.gov/EID. If you'd like to comment on this podcast, send an email to eideditor@cdc.gov.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Arthritis is common among veterans. Traumatic and overuse injuries during active duty are risk factors for developing arthritis. Fortunately, there are low-cost or no-cost strategies that can help veterans manage arthritis. Physical activity can reduce pain and improve function. It can also help improve mood and play a role in managing other chronic conditions, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. You can do low-impact activities, such as walking, biking, swimming, and water aerobics, all good forms of exercise. Arthritis-specific classes can help you get started. Information on classes, exercise programs, and tools are available at cdc.gov/arthritis. These resources can help reduce pain and improve function. Learning self-management techniques can help all veterans become more active, improve their overall quality of life, and thrive.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, it's Tom.
could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. In a last-ditch effort to purge voters in the swing state of North Carolina, the GOP has sued the state election board and state superior court to examine the eligibility of 225,000 voters just days before early voting begins. The Republican National Committee and North Carolina Republican Party are questioning the eligibility of voters who, when filling out a state voter registration form, did not include their driver's license and last four Social Security digits because the form didn't mark the fields as required. The form was corrected in December 2023. The GOP is demanding that the State Elections Board contact all 225,000 affected voters, but the board has refused, arguing that challenge came too late and that North Carolina's stringent absentee and in-person voter ID requirements will mitigate any chance of illegal voting. September 3rd, the Democratic National Committee asked to intervene in the case. The Federal Help America Vote Act stipulates that any voter registration purges must occur 90 days before the election. Similar suits were filed in Pennsylvania and Arizona earlier this summer, attempting to find registration flaws and to root out registered non-citizens. Non-citizen voter registration does infrequently happen, but rarely results in non-citizens actually voting. We've linked to great local reporting and the groups taking action at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1882. That was the day the first Labor Day parade took place in New York City. But whose idea was it? According to the late Jonathan Grossman, former historian at the Department of Labor, the first Labor Day occurred during a general uptick in working class organizing, strike activity, and militancy that year. Peter McGuire, Carpenters Union General Secretary, is often credited as the father of Labor Day, but others assert that Knights of Labor machinist and New York City's Central Labor Union leader Matthew McGuire was the force behind the holiday. The machinist McGuire had been active in the 8-hour movement and later as a Socialist Labor Party politician. By the end of the decade, 400 cities nationwide celebrated the first Monday of September as, quote, a general holiday for the working man. It was already an official holiday in most states when the labor movement started campaigning for a day of recognition at the federal level. Labor militants contend that by 1894, the holiday was promoted for its respectability against the more radical May Day. Another unanswered question remains regarding President Cleveland's motives for signing the federal legislation. The widely accepted view is that Cleveland hoped to win back labor's vote after federal troops crushed the 1894 Pullman strike in early August. But the president signed the legislation much earlier on June 28th. The nationwide boycott against Pullman cars, called by Eugene V. Debs and the American Railway Union, had just begun 2 days earlier. Did he hope to deflate the boycott? What do you think? For many in the Chicago labor movement, the fact that both Labor Day and May Day are linked to the city's history is a source of pride. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. We always begin, whether from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 61 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting record temperatures since we are also under a heat advisory. We are expecting highs over 105 today. Winds will be light and variable. Sunny conditions throughout. And then a clear sky overnight with lows in the low 60s, and it better be lower than that. Winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then mostly sunny tomorrow with near record high temperatures again. Highs over 102. How nice. Winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, though it does look like over the weekend we should be dropping into the 90s. Let's hope so. It looks like pollen is rated as none outside the window here in Rogue River proper. I don't believe it. But there it is. The air quality index is in the moderate range at 83 parts per million. So those of you who have breathing problems, you better breathe some filtered air. And that daytime UV index is high at level 6. So still take care. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.07 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles and relative humidity is dropping, currently at 62%, drying out much more throughout the day. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 65 degrees and cloudy with a weather advisory for rain. Heavy rain, apparently, yes. Paris is 62 degrees with a rain shower. Also, they are under a weather advisory for heavy rain. Rome is 85 degrees and fair, and they are under a severe heat warning. Kabul is 72 degrees and clear. Hong Kong is 88 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 79 degrees and partly cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 52 with a light drizzle. San Francisco, California is 56 degrees with fog. Chicago, Illinois is 78 degrees and sunny with a beach hazard advisory, so look out for drifting logs apparently. And New York, New York is 73 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. John Leicester at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. President Emmanuel Macron named the EU's Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, as France's new prime minister after more than 50 days of a caretaker government. The appointment of the 73-year-old Barnier follows weeks of intense efforts by Macron and his aides to bring an intense period of political turmoil to an end by finding a government leader who can survive in France's newly fractured political landscape. Barnier faces the tough task of having to work with the bitterly divided hung parliament that emerged from legislative elections that Macron called in June in a huge surprise. Without a legislative majority of his own behind him, Bernier will need to find loose ad hoc groups of backers in the National Assembly to tackle France's pressing issues, including the budget for 2025. Bernier could quickly face possible attempts in Parliament to topple the new government he will now put together and lead. Opponents of Macron on the left of French politics immediately portrayed the appointment of conservative Bernier as a slap in the face of those who voted for them. A statement from Macron's office announcing Bernier's appointment said he had been tasked with forming a unifying government to serve the country and the French people. This appointment comes after an unprecedented cycle of consultations during which, in accordance with his constitutional duty, the president ensured that the prime minister and the future government would meet the conditions to be as stable as possible and give themselves the chances of uniting as broadly as possible, the statement said. Bernier, a career politician, proud of his humble roots in France's Alpine region of Haute-Savoie, is no stranger to complex and difficult tasks. He was the European Union's chief negotiator in the difficult talks with Britain over its Brexit departure from the bloc. Bernier replaces Gabriel Attal, who was France's youngest prime minister ever and the first openly gay head of government, when he was appointed in January at age 34. Staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The leaders of South Korea and New Zealand strongly condemned the deepening military cooperation between North Korea and Russia as they met yesterday, Wednesday, for a summit meant to strengthen bilateral ties. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon arrived in Seoul with the South Korean capital, really, on his first trip to the Asian country since he took office last November. Luxon and the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol condemned in the strongest possible terms the expanding military ties between North Korea and Russia, including North Korea's export of ballistic missiles to Russia in violation of UN Security Council resolutions, according to a joint statement released by Luxon's office. The two leaders denounced, quote, in the most serious of terms, end quote, North Korea's illegal nuclear and missile development programs. They also strongly condemned Russia's war against Ukraine and pledged to continue to support the sovereignty of Ukraine and its efforts to secure a just and lasting peace, according to the statement. The U.S., South Korea, and their partners have steadfastly accused North Korea of supplying much-needed conventional arms to Russia to support its invasion of Ukraine in return for military and economic assistance. Worries about the North Korean-Russian ties deepened in June when North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Putin signed a pact stipulating mutual military assistance if either country is attacked. You got your NATO? I guess they got theirs too. Well, that does bring us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, and boy, don't we need it. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.